Inside the worm's cavern, Alabaster and Vaius immediately recognized why a lone necromancer would take residence inside a tomb a dragon already occupied. Piles of bones and bodies, fresh and new, laid strewn across the large cavern's floor. Poor souls, first picked off by a hungering dragon, and then having their death taken from them by a selfish fiend. Alabaster lamented as he kneeled down by a fresh carcass.
They will have their vengeance, Alabaster. But for now, I believe we should check to see that their lives might offer us tools to destroy the darkness that plagues this tomb.
Vaius assured his friend. Alabaster stood to his feet and nodded to Vaius as they both began to survey the room, quietly muttering arcane syllables. The two searched through the bodies lying about, seeking any magical items that may have been tossed aside by a blind eye. As Vaius reached for a satchel that laid on a cadaver, a strong magical aura erupted from the body as it jumped to life. Vaius jumped and shouted, ending his arcane chanting. The blue fiend readied himself to fight, and hopping back with his blade raised, bumped into Alabaster and his mighty shield behind him. Bodies that were lifeless one moment ago now began to rise in undeath, as the light above was consumed by a flowing darkness that ebbed down towards the heroes.
Friends of yours?
Vaius softly whispered back to Alabaster, never taking his eyes off the slowly pacing undead. Shouldn't you already be casting? Alabaster shot back aloud, studying the decrepit enemies. The rotting dead were clearly aware of their presence, yet they did not engage the heroes.
Do you know how hard it is to find a dragon willing to work with you?
A sinister voice echoed through the magical darkness. That is none of my concern. My business here is that of the war you wage on the people of this small village and the sanctity of death itself. By decree of the Kalimvora Order, you shall feel my shield of justice before facing a fate you will not return from. Alabaster shouted above to the swirling darkness.
Do not insult my intelligence, false paladin. I know of the sellsword contract that led you here. Do not try to hide your thirst for a dragon's treasure with the face of religious sanctimony. If you are so eager to see my work firsthand, then I shall let my underlings finish you off so that you may join them.
The dark cloud overhead crackled with thunderous laughter. The glowing eyes of the ghouls they faced suddenly turned blood red, and as though on cue, the mob of undead rushed the two heroes. Vaius, who had been whispering rushed arcane incantations, erupted in size and arcane might. Lightning crackled around Vaius' now enlarged weapon as he burst forward with magically altered celerity, cleaving two of the ravenous ghouls in half. You never thank me for stalling them, you know. Alabaster screamed with slight jealousy in his voice, in awe of Vaius' quick reaction.
Is shared magical empowerment not enough for you?
Vaius' enlarged vocal cords boomed. With a blindingly fast flourish of his blade, Alabaster looked dead into the eyes of four enemies barreling towards him. I suppose so. Undead figures surrounded the clashing duo, as moans and the sound of combat played back and forth throughout the cavernous chamber. A ghoul lunged towards Vaius' back, but was intercepted by the shield throw of Alabaster, cutting a deep wound in the Cretan's back as it ripped through the flesh and returned to the knight's outstretched arm. Vaius, never straying too far from Alabaster's back, reached out with his massive forearm and swatted two shambling undead backward, before following up with a huge fireball launched from his outstretched fingers. The ghouls, off balance, shrieked in agony as they were engulfed in a ball of arcane flame. Four more attackers attempted to overwhelm Alabaster's defense before being blown back by a wave of positive energy that emanated from the paladin's holy shield. Blistering undead howls filled the cavern as the fiends felt their skin melt off from holy magic that lit them aflame. Smarter zombies waited for Vaius to finish a swing into others before making their lunges at him, but had their attack blocked in a flash of speed by Alabaster. The knight quickly ducked as a large greatsword swung over his head at the flanking enemies, dismantling their bodies. Alabaster used the momentum from standing up to shield slam an undead who attempted to grapple him, and continued to swing his sword to behead another foe. More rotters continue to rise from death, some crawling, shambling, or even running towards the heroes, only to slam into their bulwark of defense and well-rounded offense. As Alabaster braced behind his shield for another bull rush wave, a rotten hand from one of the felled zombies grappled his leg, unsettling the knight's focus just enough to let the undead swarm overwhelm his bastion defenses. Vaius was quickly swarmed as well from behind, grimacing in pain as hands and teeth dug into his skin. Wasting no time, Vaius slammed his curved sword down into the ground, creating a tremor that tripped charging enemies, giving him time to reach around and toss ghouls off his body with ease. Gnarled skin and decaying fingers attempted to penetrate Alabaster's armor, but to no avail. In the midst of the ghoul's assault, Alabaster's armor began to glow faintly as he recited a prayer to Kalimpor. In a brief moment of respite, Vaius collected himself and stayed close to Alabaster, unsure if he had correctly identified the spell the knight was about to cast. With a bright light, Alabaster raised his shield above his head as it engulfed itself in a holy flame that expanded around the two heroes as a radiant aura. Alabaster finished his loud prayer and lowered his shield, watching the dead inside the 20-foot circle of burning holy flame fold in on themselves. The ghouls outside the wall of energy hissed in unison at the holy light, refusing to enter the globe.
Took you long enough.
The large Daemon Vaius coughed at his friend. Well, if you would just invest into actual armor instead of fancy bedsheets, I wouldn't have to save you so much, Alabaster responded, kneeling down to pensively watch the zombies slowly wither away. As the heroes caught their breath, the magical darkness above once more began to stir.
It seems I misjudged your strength, but I no longer have time to be bothered with you. Begone so I may finish my work.
The darkness hissed as it quickly began condensing and pouring into the dead body of the dragon.
Night and Daemon.